Welcome everybody to another Eqafe Google Hangout. Tonight we will be discussing the Eqafe interview from the Reptilian series, why humans can't see the physical. And this is a two-part series coming through from Anu, the creator of existence himself, through the interdimensional portal. And today I have Darryl Thomas with me. He's from the US. Welcome, Darryl. Thanks for being here.
Hey, it's good to be here, Gabrielle. It's really hot here in Houston, but I managed to survive the heat to be here today to share
Excellent.
some time with y'all.
Great. And just to give you guys what Eqafe is about, it's basically a self-improvement site with a database of educational interview audios coming through the interdimensional portal, which is from Destiny. I will place links in the description of this hangout to get more info, share with you guys more info of what the Eqafe site is about and who Sunet is, the interdimensional portal. If you want to do some further investigation, they'll be there. So with this interview, Darryl, why humans can't see the physical, what made you pick this one?
Well, I'll tell you why. The question took me back to my own search for meaning and trying to solve the meaning of existence. And when I was, a young man, like most people, I sort of was raised in a Christian home, nominally Christian. It wasn't like, dyed in the wool, like go to church every Sunday, but pretty much it was, I grew up Catholic, and pretty much accepted the religious framework. Oh, I'm sorry. That was somebody calling me. I had to postpone. Where was I? Oh yeah, I was agnostic though, because the thought always occurred to me that the stories in the Bible were just stories, and even as a child, I always wondered, wow, could it really be trusted? Because nobody now who's alive reading these stories could have been there or couldn't verify it's true or not. I just was kind of skeptical. But the question took me back to times in my life when I remember asking myself, what was the meaning of life and how could I find it? And I don't remember asking myself why there had to be a meaning, because, existence is here and, it's got the good things, it's got the bad things, but it doesn't mean there's a purpose or reason behind it. I could accept it just being here and dealing with it on its own terms. I remember coming up with this thought when after high school, graduating and trying to figure out what I want to do with my life. That first summer I read Kurt Vonnegut's Breakfast of Champions, which is a great book for high school seniors and other people. And it taught me to question like everything. And one of his scenes had Kilgore Trout, who was like the science fiction writer, going into a bathroom. It was like this disgusting bathroom, but on the wall somebody had scribbled, "What is the meaning of life?" So Kilgore Trout goes through his pockets and he realizes he doesn't even have a pen or anything, and he couldn't write an answer. But if he could write an answer, this is what he said: to be the eyes, ears, and nose of the creator of the universe. And I thought that was witty, but it wasn't really satisfying, So I continued searching, looking up all the various religions, this and that and the other philosophies. And they all disagreed almost every major point except for one. And that was, they all agreed that consciousness was superior to anything found in the physical world. they thought consciousness was superior. And you can go back to different philosophies like Platonism, Neoplatonism, the religions, obviously, like Hinduism, which is the beginning of creation was like a divine intelligence, or a mind or a super consciousness. And the whole purpose of your life was to master spiritual disciplines to be able to reconnect to this super consciousness, and then escape this terrible physical world full of disease, evil, misery, pain, that whole story. So I thought that, and I don't know how much I believed it. I guess I believe some of it because that's really also the basis of a lot of New Age religion and philosophy, that, the source of everything is the divine mind or the super consciousness. And as this consciousness, emanated throughout the universe, the further and further away it emanated, the more solid it became, and then more, that's where our Earth comes in. It's like furthest away from the source, and then where the matter and the physical is regarded as evil and disgusting, and just a prison, basically. And this has directed human thought for thousands and thousands of years. So going back to the recording, and Andrew said the reason why human beings can't see beyond the physical, or which I took as a metaphor as like what was behind the physical, what's behind, what's going on, with behind what we can see.
Yeah.
I took that to mean, why can't we find the meaning of life? Why can't we discover that? And then the answer was simple. They didn't want, the creators did not want the human beings to see what was going on, because it would put them on par with the creators. And that's something they didn't want, because they wanted to be in a position of authority, control, power.
Mm-hmm.
And humans were created to be subservient and, basically a source of energy and nutrition for the heavens. So basically, just like, you saw in the movie Matrix. So another thing that Anu revealed was that they also tried to find the meaning of life and the existence, and they couldn't find one. There was no answer. So they decided to be that point. They stepped into that point and directed things, but from a point not of equality and oneness, but of domination and control and authority. And that's it was kind of moving when he was saying it, because it was like, would we have done the same thing if we were in his shoes? I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of hard to relate on that level, So basically, this search of a greater meaning has to become the cornerstone for all our arts and sciences, all our philosophies and religion. And all the time, we've always overlooked the physical reality. We've denigrated the physical reality, and and propped up the mind and the consciousness as the focal point.
Yeah.
And that was really
so
putting the cart before the horse, isn't it?
Yeah. Basically, they like the way. Well, let's first go into. I wanted to just clarify who the creators were. Like who are we speaking about, and just give a little maybe history, if you can, briefly, of what led to this point. Like because Anu described a little bit about what was going on in the interdimensions where they were living before Earth was created to get him to a point where now he is taking over existence and having the power to veil us from our own life, from ourselves. How did all that transpire? Briefly, if you don't mind going there.
There's only like 100 interviews where he describes it. I don't know. I was hoping you wouldn't ask me that because I didn't want to go into.
You don't want to go there?
There was a huge process, and
Right.
I can't keep track of it. I mean, it's a huge. There's so many of these interviews, and you really have to go through them one after another, and it's just like the biggest novel you've ever read. And I just don't want to give a Reader's Digest version of it because I'm going to miss all the points. But let's just say that they put themselves in that position, and they created consciousness basically as a filter, as a mirror to keep us in a subservient position, to keep them on. Because I remember this is one thing I can recall in the interview where he was saying when they were designing the first humans, and I guess this is before they designed the mind consciousness system, the substance and the physical allowed the humans to see everything in existence in the multiverse within themselves in one moment.
Yeah.
And that took them aback because they were like, how is this possible? You know, we are the gods, and they're like, you know, there was this creation, and it's physical, and obviously we're superior because we're, you know, the gods. And they thought, well, it's because the mind or something was linked to the physical. And they didn't realize it was the substance in the physical that was connecting
everything. Yeah,
everything.
They basically thought that energy, which was created from the physical body, which the mind takes from the physical, produces it, and which creates basically our mind thoughts and emotions, feelings, which in the past connected to the heaven and fed the heaven basically energy to empower their heaven existence, which was layers of existences, like all sorts of happenings going on in the heaven interdimensional existence. And again, that is hundreds of interviews on this Eqafe site explains all of this. You can start from Reptilians the first and just go through the series, which we highly suggest. But yeah, so basically they thought the energy was where the power is, where we are, where life is, so to speak, not realizing that actually what was really real is the physical, is substance, which is like what our life force is made from. So how about explaining a little bit more of your realizations with this interview?
While he was talking about how they crippled the human to be able to perceive only a fraction, not only a fraction of existence, but just a fraction. He said a grain of sand, you know, of the physical compared to like a beach. You have like a grain of sand, and it's like, this is all the human mind can conceive, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, when we think we're like lofty and the measure of all things, and I think, therefore I am, and consciousness is all this and that and the other. And he said, no, you're just only got this much. And it immediately brought the Tower of Babel story to mind, because I could see, I guess it was like a perfect analogy. And let me recount the Tower of Babel story real quick. I know everybody's heard it, but even though this story is like 200 words in, you know, the Old Testament, the book of Genesis, it does contain a lot of significance, a lot of symbolism, and a kernel of truth, apparently. So after the flood, humanity has a single language. We assume they're a single race, you know, this one, everybody, they're the single family, apparently. And they decide to, there's no wars or anything. Apparently, they just get together and say, hey, let's build a tower in the heavens so we can see what's going on in there and we can make a great name for ourselves. So they start building this tower with the intent of, not being, scattered across the earth or not being divided or separated. It's a unique project of unity, equality, I guess. And they embark on this thing, and then God and the, I guess the Elohim or whatever, they say, Yahweh, hey, these humans, look what they're doing down here. We got to I got to put a stop to this. This is the beginning of what they'll do. And pretty soon they'll be, on par with us. So what we have to do is go down there and stop them, confuse their language and scatter them so they can't become on par or on equal terms with us, or see what's going on in heaven. And that was another thing I understood. He said we didn't want human beings to be able to see who they are, because they were he didn't exactly come out and say it, but it was implied that the creation had threatened them by being more than the creators, and that was something that was not going to fly, with the Anunnaki. So
yeah, it's fascinating also that the starting point of Anu, so to speak, and the beings in heaven was separation. Like, they didn't want us to be able to see the physical based on enslavement, based on making people like subservient to other people. And this is how our world has always been living, just separation, slaves, masters.
They wanted to be that point with the greater than, because he said they were looking, obviously there's something greater than, I don't know why I said obviously, but they really believed that there had to be a greater than principle operating in the universe. And that's filtered down all the way to us. So he said that the different races in the universe had different interpretations of that. Some thought it was like a source was greater than, some thought nature was greater than, some thought it was the ancestors greater than. But we made consciousness and our beliefs greater than what is here. So our beliefs about God, our beliefs about our own consciousness, our beliefs about our own importance in relationship to the earth, the animals, and nature, we think we're greater than that. And then when that, we act on it, and we cause all kinds of destruction, thinking, not even having a thought about it. It's just like, it's every day. Of course, that's how it's supposed to be. There's greater than and there's less than. There's no equality. There's no equality. There's got to be a hierarchy, a pecking order, a greater and a lesser, because that's the way things are.
Right. Yeah, so, and it's important, I think, to state that, each one of us at some point in our existence who is here, able to watch this, and just human beings in general, have kind of abdicated our own responsibility to be self-responsible and stand as that point. So the outflows of what has occurred from the beginning of time, basically, when we're put on Earth until now, all the destruction, all the separation has been able to be created because within ourselves we have separated ourselves from our own life force. And like Darryl was saying, the beliefs and thoughts and making our intelligence say, or making our pictures say, like what we look like, or any kind of belief system more than the physical reality and equality and oneness of all life, which is really what matters and what is here in this world. And because we have separated ourselves, we are now facing the consequences everywhere of this being played out through generations and like eons of time. So it's to realize that we, within the Destiny process and what Eqafe goes into extensively, is that we are walking now a process of taking responsibility of ourselves and using self-forgiveness and self-corrective living to give ourselves the power back to be able to direct ourselves in a way that is best for all.
And best for all, and as defined, and again, back to equality and oneness. And people, if you talk about equality even now, it's like a conceptuality that they really grasp, or they just have a negative attitude. It's like, how can things be equal? You know, how can, and they'll go through all kinds of logical processes to prove to you that equality doesn't exist or can't exist. It would be actually harmful. I've heard people talk about, you don't want an equal society because the society would fall and people would just stop working and But I mean, that's where we are. Now we have to find a solution, and transcend the greater than principle,
become,
and bring back or move into for the first time into an equal and one principle. And there are people out there. I mean, I think there's a movement going on that people are starting to recognize in the political system and an economic system, that the vast titanic size of inequality is unsustainable, and it's more apparent that it can't be allowed to continue because it's literally breaking the earth apart.
Yeah, and what's interesting that through this process of what we've been walking at Destiny, and just like the material and people starting to walk their change, because everything is one and equal, it ripples out and it affects everybody else. So within yourself, as you walk your own process of self-forgiveness, self-change, moving yourself from destructive behavior to behavior that supports you and everybody else, that will ripple out, and we will eventually start to see real change in this world. So it's like we believe that we can't have any effect in changing this world, and it's too big, it's too much, it's never going to change. But if you take that back to yourself and realize that just starting with yourself, like just one step, creates that change, momentum and accumulation to start. And it really starts with one step, and realizing that each one has the power to affect change. And it is now, like, we're seeing that in society and stuff, with the political system, people realizing things and such, things like that. So just want to add that in.
It would be great if we had X-ray vision and we could see through objects and into each other and the multiverse. And I don't know if we'll ever get to it from this. I won't be able to get through it within this mind consciousness system that we have. So I guess that's another motivation, if we need one, to be able to transcend the mind consciousness system, so we become, connected with the awareness that there is the guiding, not the guiding principle, but the principle of oneness and equality. Has to be expressed, and we've got to just keep talking about it, become living examples of it, and introduce people who are naturally inclined to see and agree with us. So that's our mission, I reckon. It's going to be a long, arduous process, but that's what we have. That's what we have to look forward to.
Well, yeah.
And that's.
We can also take it back to the the day by day living of yourself. Not make it so, projected out into the future. It's going to take forever and things like that, because we can each within our day work with ourselves, work with different things that will eventually accumulate to some big kind of change. So yes, it's important to realize that this is a process that is been accumulating since humans were put on this earth, which was thousands and thousands of years ago. And it's going to take a process to change everything, but we are responsible. We have to start taking responsibility for ourselves, or we're going to create what kind of world we're seeing is being created and has been created. Inequality and destruction of ourselves, of our earth, of animals, of nature is not going to continue. We're either going to not continue, or we're going to change ourselves and create solutions and be part of that solution, which is what is best for all life. What can we create here to support everybody to live and prosper and live in decency and stuff like that?
Eloquently said. I couldn't agree more. And that's where we are, and that's where these Eqafe recordings are crucial in understanding how we got to where we are, understanding that our sciences and religions don't even begin to tell or describe reality in any meaningful way at all, actually. And what we've been led down this rabbit hole of delusions and false intel, basically fake news. I suppose.
Yeah.
The fakest news that we have is,
Well, yeah, there's a fake news, and then there's like the alternative, kind of more aligned with reality news. So there's different avenues that are here that makes this process not an easy process. It's kind of challenging to, be self-honest within yourself and align to what would be best here. So, yeah, I mean, there's so much out there. There's so many resources and outlets and intel and all sorts of stuff, but what supports with this Eqafe and the process that is at desteni, the self-forgiveness and stuff, is to kind of get within yourself, find your core within who you are, and then be able to align yourself with truth, with the self-honesty of yourself, and then you can recognize it within what you're seeing. So there's a saying out there: investigate all things and keep what is best. So that's a cool principle to live by as well.
And I like to add, read the damn material if I could. So that would be helpful.
You should put that on a shirt, Darryl.
Make a shirt of that. All right, so that's all I got today, Gar. But that was a really fascinating. I've listened to the recordings 109 and 110. Why can't humans see beyond the physical? Why can't humans? It could have been a title. Why can't humans find the meaning of life? I mean, I'm sure people have made meanings for them, created meanings for themselves, but is it a fool's gold? Is it really answering, the bell, as it were? Does it really make a difference? We can only hope that people will wake up and see by examples of people who are actually trying to get the message out or expand people's awareness, because that's tough to do. There's an old saying that there's no greater truth than one is persuaded to believe. And that's a really hard nut to crack, because if people believe they've got the truth, you're going to have a hard time convincing them to expand or consider enlarging or shifting their frame of reference. But like I said, I think there's a lot of people who are like us. You know, they drift in and out of our lives and into and out of our, you know, field of vision, and like little sonar beacons, you know, they come in and say, oh yeah, I can see where you're coming from, and slowly and surely we'll increase in numbers. So that's what I'm trying to put through.
Cool. Yeah, and just to add to that note in closing is that what I have learned from myself through walking this process and just through the material and through examples that have supported me is to realize, like, even a little insignificant point of support that you give another, you don't know how that will affect another person. So if you're in yourself being your best and supporting another in the best that you can be, in a moment that will birth support for that person. If you in yourself do something harmful to another person, then that's gonna breed or birth harm, destruction. So you can bring it back to yourself and, you know, look within yourself. How would you want to be treated in this moment? And then give that to another person. And what we're speaking about with the desteni process is that there's many factors, many dimensions that are going on internally that you have to uncover and understand for yourself within your own mind, because there is a process that is required to walk and understand all this and become self-honest, to be able to be an example for other people in, you know, what we actually have to move ourselves to be, to eventually create the solution for this world where there is no more destruction. We have equality and oneness here. There is going to be a process that has to be walked in. Yeah, it starts with self and being the example within yourself first to be that for another person. And don't think, you know, a small little insignificant moment of support is not relevant, when in reality it could open up a person to a new world. So share yourself and be open and supportive. That's something that has supported me greatly by other people and doing it myself as well. Anything to add, Darryl?
Oh no, that was wonderful. Yeah, I mean, just keep on, you know, we'll make it through this day. We'll make it through tomorrow, and we'll continue, and we'll have more Eqafe interviews and more Google Hangouts, and we'll just share and you know, and discuss, and we'll bring on others along for the ride, as it were.
Awesome. All right, so Darryl, thanks so much for being here and sharing your perspectives and your insights on these interviews and bringing them forward to be discussed. Much appreciated.
I hope if I could just reach one person, that would have been worth it.
We got 3 viewers, so
3 viewers.
We're going.
We can reach 3 people. That would have been wonderful. Hi, Deidre. I'm sure she's on there. All right, so I will I'll let you guys go. Have a great day.
Thanks, Darryl. You too.
Thanks,
everybody, for
watching. Till next time.
Yes, we'll do it again. And thanks, everybody, for watching, and we'll see you on the next Eqafe Hangout. Good night.